Hello everyone, I'm Colin Canet. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is on super glues, or what we call cyanoacrylate glues. And today's video is sponsored by the nice people at Starbond. And I'm happy to be working with them because this is, I think, the 5th or 6th year that they have approached me to do a video for them. And the reason that I keep saying yes to them is I use the product. I trust the product because I always know that I'm getting fresh glue, and that means when I open the bottle, I know it's going to work for me. So let's get started, because today I want to show you some of the things that I use these glues for in making projects and some of the tips and tricks that I use along the way. So let's jump in. So first thing I want to show you is how I make these little wooden trays, open boxes, open top boxes for all sorts of storage. Have a look at this. So first of all, this is the little box that I keep in the fridge, that I keep my glues in the fridge. But here's my little catch-all box, and you'll recognize this. So this is the top of the side of my cabinet. But let's look down here into one of my drawers. And down here is my Dalmax drawer, and I've got all sorts of these little wooden boxes. I can put them together in no time. Today I'm going to show you how I do that. To make the boxes, I just use this super thin plywood. It's called Doorskin material. It's about 1/16 of an inch thick. I don't even need to use my table saw to cut it. I can score it twice, then a couple more scores, and look at that, nice clean edge. It's that easy. Okay, now I've got wood on wood here, so maybe a little bit difficult to see, but there's my end piece there, and there's one of my cutoffs. Now, one of my go-to glues is this medium thick, and this is a flexible, and there's not a lot of flex to it, but a little bit. But check this out. I'm going to show you a new product here. So all I do is just put a very thin bead on my wood, just like that. I don't need any more than that. But here's what's really cool. This is a new product. This is Accelerator with a little brush. So instead of spritzing it, I can now put Accelerator right on the piece that I want to glue down, turn that around like that, and because this top part is all vertical, I can drop that down so you can see, and just like that, and that's done. Turn it around, do the same thing on the other side. So for the assembly, I just check to make sure my edges, there isn't something sticking out there. And all I do is put a little bit of CA glue, again, just another bead along there. Nothing fancy, just like that. Now I put that there like that, and I'm going to use the back side here so it's consistent. And there will be a little bit of squeeze out there. And now, just to show you that you don't need to use the wipe one, you can actually use a spritzer. I'm just going to spritz that area like that, and that's how quick that works like that. Now I'm just going to go around the edges here and do the same thing on all these sides here, and do the same thing. Okay, what I do for the bottoms is just drop the box on something a little bit larger and draw around it, because we're making utility boxes here. We're not making artwork. Now I'm just going to cut that out. So all these are for now is just to reinforce the bottom, because that's where most of the weight's going to be. And in this case, I'm just going to put a strip on each one of these, put that down on there. So there's that little box, strong, easy, and fun to make. Now, if you're making larger boxes like this sizing box I made a few videos ago, and it's using much thicker material, you might want something that is a little bit easier to work with in terms of being able to move it around. So a 5-minute 2-part epoxy might be the thing to go for. And Starbond has a 2-part epoxy. There it is there. But check out this. This is why I wanted to show you this. Look at what you also get in the box. You get a little mixing tray like that, and that's silicone, and look, a little silicone mixer as well, so that when the glue finally does dry, you can actually just flick it away and keep reusing it. And of course there's a little instruction manual inside as well. But I also wanted to show you, this is what a lot of people don't realize. This is one of the reasons that I like Starbond, is these sorts of things. But look at the lids. They are a screw-on lid. You still have to take the top of these off to get at it, but when you're finished, you just have to screw the lid back on. You don't have to force it on. You don't have to worry about glue getting caught up in these things. And if it does, you just unscrew it. You can easily wipe it off. I've never had these clog yet. They're always easy to get off. So if you're looking for a two-part epoxy, check out the website. You'll be able to see these on there and maybe order that as well. One of the things we run into from time to time as woodworkers are cracks, especially in the end of boards. And this one is a real nasty one, but it's going to work for showing what I have. Now, just to give you an idea, this is just a piece of paper, and you can see that once I get that in there, that's goes all the way along. Now, what you cannot do with a crack like this that goes through all the way, you can't use typical CA glue, even the thick stuff, or even two-part epoxy, because what happens, you put it in one side, next thing you know, it's running out the bottom. But Starbond has come up with another new product. Now you can get Epoxy Putty, and it comes in a white, which I haven't opened yet. It also comes in a black, and I have opened it up. Now, yesterday I rolled a little piece together, and I'm going to show you what to do with a crack like this, but I wanted to show you how strong it is, and you can see that that's a little more than 1/4 of an inch, and I'm just going to, can't even break it. Yeah, well, I can't even break it. That's how strong that is. So let me put some gloves on and let me show you how we mix it and how we can use it. So in my case today, I'm going to put the white part away. I'm not going to use the white. I'm going to use the black because it's a little bit blends more with what we're doing here. So when you get it, you'll find that it comes in a tube. I've already used this, and I've pulled off, I don't remember the top or the bottom here. It doesn't really matter. And all I'm going to do now, and because it's just a demonstration, I'm just going to use a little bit of this, and I'm just going to use my chisel, and I used a knife before, but this might work better. Yeah, I think the knife might work better. Anyway, I'm just going to put that back on there, put that back on there. And now what we have is something with a little plastic skin around it, so you'll need to take that off. And when you do, there it is, you'll notice that the inside is one color and the outside is another. It's a little hard to see with my black gloves here, but what we need to do now is we just knead that and just sort of mix it back and forth in your fingers like that. And this will take a few minutes, but when you get finished, it will be a consistent black like that. It'll be black all the way through. And you'll probably notice partway along too, it starts to get warm. And that's an indication that the one part of this is mixing with the other, and you can see it's starting to look kind of grayish look. It'll go like that for a while, and then it will eventually go back to black. Now, I understand when you're mixing the white, you have to be very careful because it's white on white. So when you're mixing the white up, you'll have to sort of beware that when you're mixing it, maybe more aware of the heat that it's generated. Okay, so I've mixed that for a couple of minutes now, and you can see that it's a nice consistent, and I can actually feel there's a little bit of heat being generated by it. And I have plenty here because the whole part, or the whole reason that I'm doing this, is I want to fill this crack so that when I put something through, pour something through on the outside, maybe on the other side, maybe I'll pour some two-part epoxy in there to fill that crack up. So what I want now, this is only good for about 5 minutes or so before it starts to harden up, because of course it is a two-part epoxy, and there's a tiny bit of stretch to it, but not very much. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to roll it together, and in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this. I'm going to start on the end and fill the end, and I'm just going to push that right into the crack like that and all the way along, and that's all I'm going to do. I'm just filling this crack up, and the whole point of doing that is so that now when I put something through from the other side, it's not going to leak out. Now, I'm not going to do this whole crack here. This is really just a demonstration of how this works here. Okay, so there's that epoxy putty, and it's nice and hard. It hardens up in about 5 minutes, but I've let this sit for about 10 or 15. And now it's time, because it's proud of the wood, I want to see what I need to do to trim this down. So I've got one of my old planes, because I didn't want to use one of my better planes with a really sharp blade on it, because I'm not sure what this is going to do to the blade, if anything. But you can see I've done a little bit of planing here, and it actually does seem to be able to plane down fairly well. But at some point, I'm going to need to do some sanding. So I'm just going to do a little bit of, you can see it's kind of chippy. So I've decided that I'm going to take this outside into my stoop where I do some of my sanding in the breezeway. But I'm going to be using, this is Starbond sandpaper, and it comes in a variety of grits. You can see all the way from 80 right up to 240 grit. Now I'm going to be using some 80 grit, and I don't want the dust from this because I don't know what's in this, so I want to do that outside in the breezeway. And of course this is just a typical hook and loop. I've got some of the particles on there from where I was planing. Typical hook and loop, ready to go on there like that. So I'm just going to go outside now and do some sanding, and I bring it back in here. I'm using 80 grit on here, and we'll see what that looks like. Well, that epoxy putty, you can see it right there underneath my finger. That sanded beautifully. It was very quick, but what I expected, it might clog up the discs, and it did. You can see, well, there's wood embedded in there as well from the sand, but it does block up the sandpapers. But you know what? If you're ordering this from Starbond, you can order sandpaper from them as well. In fact, you can even get a 50-pack that's got all of the grits in it, so it's really handy to use. So, and because it's hard, but it's not super hard, you would be able to use a table saw on this. That would be fine. But the big thing is now, if you are filling that crack with something, it's not going to flow all the way through. So now you can actually fill that crack without worry that all of your ingredients is going to leak all the way through. So in this demonstration, I want to show you how you can blend CA glues and get a color tone. So first of all, I drilled 2 Forstner bit holes. This one I filled with CA glue, and you can see I did that before I stained it, and the CA glue prevents the stain from going through, so you never ever want that, because that just is a bad combination. This one after I drilled the CA or the Forstner bit hole, I stained the whole thing. Then I put the CA glue in after. Now, unfortunately, because the CA glue, in this case, it seeps into the edge grain, it makes it darker. But you can blend, if you have one of these little trays from Starbond, you can actually take your CA glue, so you've got a dark, a medium dark, or medium thick, and a medium, and they're different colors. I decided this one was a closer match to the wood dye that I was using here. But look, you can actually blend that with a clear and custom color. Now, if you don't have one of these trays, you can use glass, and all you need to do, I've got white paper underneath it so I can see it better. Drop a little bit of brown CA glue and just one little drop or two of the clear into that, and that will help reduce the tone of that. And you can see where I've already put a test on there, so you can actually move around and test that by putting different tones on there, and you can actually match that hole when you're patching a hole with a color tone CA glue. So just another way of using CA glues, but actually blending colors of them. Well, that concludes my video for today. Everything's Starbond, and I've been using the product for years. I have no problem recommending them. I have had excellent success using their products. If you're new to Starbond, I highly recommend that you go and check out their website. You can get 10% off right off the bat by signing up to their e-newsletter, but they often have specials as well. And right now, I believe they have a 20% off special where you can get a couple of bottles of CA glue and an accelerator. It's a great little starter kit. So I do recommend that you check out their website, and I'll put the link in the description box and in the article on Woodwork Web where I've detailed a lot of these things. And if you are concerned about the longevity, keep your CA glue in the fridge, just in the refrigerator. It will keep for a year and a half in the fridge. In fact, I've had some of mine keep substantially longer than that, but Starbond says a year and a half. So you have good lasting life with them as well if you keep them refrigerated, and you'll still have an excellent product to use. I'm Colin Canet for Woodwork Web. Thanks for watching.